Alexandra said that much of what you will see right now has already been shown by the trench supervisors when they explained the excavations in their trenches. However, and I also will show things that Alexandra has shown, but that is because we are all approaching the same set of finds from different directions. Normally, a presentation of small finds would follow the database strategy, which is by materials, and but that would not be interesting in the context of this seminar. So I prefer to show it as a to present it by categories, using a functional approach, which will help in understanding everything that's going on in the, not everything, some of the stuff that is going on in the cemetery. I have, this is a fairly basic division, just allowing this presentation to be structured. So I will start with the structural things, go on with, which are building materials, architectural elements, things like that. Furnishings, this is connected, as you will see, with the furniture inside the tombs. Then personal adornment, jewelry, including beads. A big category, not a big category, an important category are the grave goods that are of a symbolic nature when placed in tomb context. And several categories of finds reflect rites that were probably performed within these tombs. Last but not least, then the incongruous or residual finds, meaning you get it and you start thinking, what is this doing here? Structural. You have seen in one of the presentations the coral pieces that are nicely niched that were used to as mortises for the wooden parts of the structure. These would be the door frames, and as you saw, we have doors. And the thing is that there is quite a lot of wood coming out of the context, except it is in what is nicely called a fluffy form or powdered. Very often it reaches me in a state that allows me only to weigh it and then discard it because there's nothing I can do with it. However, it was clear from this set of finds that we have two kinds of wood. One would be probably acacia. However, the other one I will refrain from being certain what I saw until an archaeobotanist sees it. Other stuff that can be connected with structural elements of the tomb are the floors, which in all of these tombs were some version of the pebbles, mixed often in color. And this is something that started coming out in the shells that I was receiving in the registry. Quite often the contexts that were on the floor of the tombs had like more than 50% of this kind of, if you see my pointer, my mouse pointer, about 50% of these contexts were abraded shells. And they do not occur in other contexts within the city, for instance, or within the shrines. So a give and take between me and the trench supervisors generally resulted in the idea that these were also used as part of the pebble floors. Sometimes, but very rarely, pieces of red coral are also found among them. And selenite, this comes very often, I think it is simply part of the anhydrite, the gypsum stone that is used for building, because these are veins within the stone. However, in one of the tombs, one of the shafts, for instance, one of the blocks was so beautifully prepared that a whole sheet of this selenite served as a sort of facing of the wall of this shaft. And this is this example here is from Morocco, where they have much better selenite. But generally, the idea was to have a shiny, translucent surface. The wood that we find could also be part of furnishings. But of course, since we haven't found anything actually in the form of a chest or object or anything, this has to be a speculation. However, the iron nails that are found within all of the contexts from the necropolis, and that's like I would say that I haven't finished with the statistics, but generally I would say that 95% of the iron finds, the recognizable iron finds from the tombs, are some form of nails. And the rather longer nails, the 6-7 centimeter long nails, with big heads, of course, the element of corrosion here makes them bigger. However, they were big-headed nails, and very often bent like this, and very often preserving, as you see here and also here, preserving in the corrosion a negative of the wood. That, a negative of the wood that of the wooden planks that it had that the nails had held together. The copper nails, among the copper nails, we can also find some very long ones, like this one, which was measured at 12 centimeters long. However, most of there is a variety of the copper nails, from the bigger ones to the very small ones, and even tacks and small pins. And these would have been used for something other than these would have been used on objects like chests or boxes or something small and quite beautiful, in fact, considering how Ola, you need to mute yourself. Okay, where was I? Oh, okay, these several nails have been found in, and because of the presence of a conservator, we have managed to check on other nails also here, that they have this kind of, well, decoration. I wouldn't say it's really decoration, but very frequently 4 knobs and these dashes, bars like this, on the underside. And one idea that we have right now is that when they were actually hammered into an object, this prevented into softwood, this would prevent the nail from turning. It would be set stiffly within the surface. Copper presents a much greater variety of shapes in these tomb contexts, and there is quite a lot of these strips. They are from 1 to 5 centimeters wide, I mean, and they very often present preserve iron rivets, like here, and also the remains of some kind of adhesive or the wood that they were attached to. And also you can see that it's actually the spitting was turning a corner around some kind of object. You saw these 2 lock plates. Well, this is definitely a lock plate with the whole mechanism still preserved, and it can be actually studied in the way it worked. We didn't get the key to it though. And this plaque is full of little dots in 4 rows, pierced through in different sizes, and riveted to something. So possibly it was meant to be decoration rather than lock plate. Going on, personal adornment. Beads of all kinds. But quite a few Indo-Pacific beads. Otherwise, you can see the variety is really big, including the spacer bead, which was of coral, and also these beads, which would rather fit the category of incongruous, or because they are probably modern. There was an iron ring, a signet ring, something that can be considered, unless it is a game counter. There's plenty of different ideas what these little glass objects were used for. But it could have been also part of a finger, finger ring. Glass bangles. The only piece of jewelry that we had this year was this little part of something like the earrings that were found in 2 years ago. And a few, not many at all, just a few. The cowrie shells with the cut back dorsal side, meaning they must have been used as an ornament on something. But since these pieces continue to be used even today, this might very well be also an incongruous or residual find. The category that has excited the greatest interest, you have here some more pictures, more or less what Emilia showed you. They all come from one tomb, and they all come from one corner of that tomb, where apparently they must have formed, well, they must have formed at some point a set, regardless of whether we consider that they were swept away to that corner or placed there intentionally. I'm not sure, Emilia, what you think right now after analyzing all the data. They were very, apart from the big ones, which are in good shape, you can see though that they were sitting somewhere near some kind of burned offering because they are blackened. Whether the blackening on the front is intentional, that's another question. However, the others, and this may be due to a different kind of clay being used for these, so to speak, brown ones, compared to these, which have a darker, better fired, more denser and harder clay. They were very fragmented and difficult to put together. So in the end, I think there's like maybe, apart from the 4 big statues, there are probably 4 or 5 of the smaller ones that remind us of the idols of the Blemmyans that Emilia mentioned. Mario said that I might say more about this, but what helps to say when you have terracotta showing a woman holding a child in the Egyptian context, you at once think of Isis and holding Horus, especially as when we think of the Blemmyans and their worship of this goddess. Considering I'm not sure we talked to Ola about the clay of this, I don't remember. But this is, it looks like Nile silt to me. More importantly, it's terracotta made on a hollow rod, around a hollow rod, with the hollow form inside. And it is shaped very generally and apparently from 2 different molds because the front doesn't match up to the back. This also holds true for our great find of the season, meaning our dragon, meaning the crocodile. You can see how beautifully the bottom of it was painted yellow to imitate the real crocodile's coloring. How all these are all added elements. Some of them are missing, and you can see there's a difference in color where they are missing. I don't know how they were, because the others seem to be part of the body. Why are these missing? I have no idea. This, you can see the handle here, and also also this hole, which makes it actually not a terracotta, but what I think it is a zoomorphic vessel. Please note the nice, beautiful eyes that appear here on top of the head of this creature. I show you these photos because it was whole but cracked. So when the sand came out of it, it just came apart. But it is actually in very good condition and easily put together. The space inside isn't really big. You can see how thick the walls are and how the firing didn't created this this break. And my general feeling is that, like Emilia said, it's completely unique, and it was made by a craftsman who really loved his work and knew what he was doing. Look at how beautifully these teeth are shaped, how they are matched so that they fit between each other, and how beautiful the paws are, how they are well made. It's actually a great little piece of art. I'm very interested in what Kuba found as an analogy for this. This object definitely has a ledge at the bottom. So it was meant to be standing on this spot, I think, anyway. However, it was also meant to be fixed to something because of the holes that we have here, much more than in that Navrati's piece, but that doesn't have to mean anything. So I just put in here two of the big nails that we found, not necessarily in the same context, obviously, but either the copper or the iron nail of the 10, 12 centimeter length could have been used to fix this to a wall, as a stele on the wall, as on the chest. We have as many, we can speculate long on the subject. Our whole set of incense burners with stone ones with carving, the brick ones, which are very often whole bricks that were cut in half and adapted to serve as an incense burner with the hollow made in them to hold the incense, the burned part of the offerings. And this unusual shape, meaning just a pebble, which was actually the hollow was made in it to be used for this purpose. Many of them were found with the charcoal still in there. So basically in situ. Our discussion now is with Emilia whether they were left like that or whether there was the ritual of upturning them, because she found one that was upside down in situ apparently. So this may be proof of some kind of rite, a closure rite of this kind. The Eastern Desert ware cups that Ola showed evidently were used for burnt offerings as well. But there was also a clay terracotta, of course, incense burner with the Eastern Desert ware characteristics about it. Quite small, in fact, just about the shape of the cups, and found together with the crocodile. And just one, so I put it here. We found an ivory object of this kind, which upon analysis, I think is a pyxis. The diameter of the base, because this is the base, would be around 10 centis, 12 centis, something like that. We don't have the lid, but there is the ledge for the lid that covered it. It would have contained probably some ointments or perfume or some. Going on to the more organic objects, not objects, the more organic things. Surely, the charcoal that you see here is actually rare. Usually we don't get it in such big pieces. Usually it's just powder. And charcoal is ubiquitous, but when it comes in such big pieces, it does mean that there is a fire there. I don't have the data from, I haven't checked the data basically, but obviously the shells and that are shown here are just a part of the big set of shells that we find. But as Alfredo Carenante, our malacologist, said once, not analyzed once, there is a clear difference between the edible ones and what he calls background noise, which comes from the deposits that are present generally on the shore here. So I'm showing you just the ones that he taught me are the edible ones. And several of them have proof of having been opened, meaning for culinary purposes. These are just examples from modern times how these shells, or rather the mollusks in them, are eaten. There is also a variety of date stones, which Jarosław Zieliński, our archaeobotanist, once studied, identifying different kinds of dates, which shows that different kinds reached the oasis, reached Berenike from their points of origin. Of course, this doesn't mean that these were offerings, food offerings, or food eaten in the tombs, rather in the necropolis, in the cemetery, when people visited the tombs, because they are found rather outside. You have seen the variety of pots, bowls, cups, etc., utensils that are found within, mostly for drinking. This set of glass bowl and two Aswan bowls that were shown in two of the presentations upside down in a niche next to inside a burial shaft should be seen as definitely placed there for ritual reasons, placed upside down specifically, which again refers us to that idea that some of the rites intended these containers to be placed upside down. Bogdan Żurawski has some proof of, has found some evidence for it that they could have had a magical purpose when placed upside down, especially in such a context as a burial. And a beautiful piece of glass with cut decoration, engraved rather, decoration. Here my attempts at showing what the design was of it. I'm sure that Renata Kucharczyk, our glass specialist, will be able to tell you much more about this evidently late piece. The glass also comes in several, in two other forms as beakers. And these are some examples of these, and they were definitely, again, in ritual context because they were found just outside the burial chests, evidently thrown out when the burial was looted, and also as lamps. The typical late lamps with blue blobs, and this, unusual for me anyway, I haven't seen many of these, written-like lamp. However, there are also several unguentaria, which fragments of unguentaria, of course, which are rather in the category of residual, because they represent the early Roman shapes. And in this case, this is for me, and I would like to tell you at this point that in these contexts, we often have faience or even terra sigillata, but very few pieces, showing that evidently when there are layers of early Roman somewhere nearby, that when the shafts were being dug, the tombs were being made, these were unearthed and thrown in with the fill into these late contexts. Not much to be said more about this than what has been said by others, except that there are at least two examples from Egypt, one from Fayum, the other one I don't remember right now, but where the descriptions of the excavations tell you that 2 lamps or 4 lamps in case of Fayum were found inside a pottery container of this kind, evidently a portable cupboard. The lamps from the necropolis are again like maybe 80% are frog lamps, all kinds of all this kind of shape, this shape of lamp, very obviously. Very often very deteriorated, but they are so characteristic that they're easy to spot, use because they are suited, as you see. And in one case, instead of the regular frog motif on top of it, there is the sprawling vine, which is in the same category as the frog in terms of resurrection symbolism. The other, interestingly, when the lamps come in pairs, often the frog lamp as we saw in here, the frog lamp is accompanied by something that looks like an African red slip lamp. And it is most definitely an imitation of the type made in local clay. This has been confirmed by independently by a number of pottery specialists, so I repeat after them. However, this particular lamp has this very strange appearance of the nozzle, as if we were weaving, I'd say this is evidence of the thread being spun on a clay object. But why here? I have no idea. Sorry. And from the necropolis, we have this discus of a lamp, which is obviously incongruous because it is an early Roman imported lamp. And completely incongruous, I'm almost at the end. The context yield what is found everywhere in Berenike, meaning all kinds of raw minerals that were traded in the port. The most obvious ones, which I recognize, that's why I show them here, recognize thanks to the geologists that over the years have shown me these things. Peridot, rock crystal, metamorphic balls. They may have been actually used as the Bedouin tell us that they use it to with slingshots for birds, for instance, for hunting birds, and of course beryl, which is so frequent. And from the fills and the surface layers, really the very top surface layers, some very not so much, some waste products, turtle shell. Circles and the waste that is left once you cut the circle out. What is it doing there? Yeah, that's the question. The same about these two. Found inside the tomb chamber, this iron links of a chain, and this object that looks like some kind of tool, also of iron. My thinking right now is that these may represent the tools that were used by the looters when they needed to move the slabs covering the burial chest, for instance. And this is what broke and was left in the tomb. Last but not least, this beautiful little object made of selenite with two holes. The thread is ours. But some of us remembered that once you thread it like that and you twirl it, it will move in circles. So with this reprise from science, thank you.